we got a knock on the door, and an Army chaplain and an officer came to, it's just like what you see in the movie. And, so they came to the door, and I think my dad kind of took care of Audrey, and, my mom said, kind of guided everybody to her back bedroom, and that's where, they have to deliver the news, and it was almost mechanical coming out of the officer's mouth, just, that he had.
What was that for you? What was happening in you as these words were spoken, just as you thought of the movie script? And you're cast in a world that you never auditioned for.
It was chaos. I just remember falling to my knees and like being by my mom's bed and trying to hold onto the bed, and he did say they assumed it was suicide by a gunshot wound. And then I think, my mom was crying too, and I think she led them.
With those words being spoken, right, suicide by a gunshot wound, your eyes kind of go off to the side, almost as if you were visualizing that scene where what was going through you when those words were spoken.
Just disbelief and confusion and why and chaos. It was chaotic. It was overwhelming. It was unbelievable. I felt like this wasn't my reality. This wasn't happening. It just, I don't know. So my mom helped them, or I don't know. I went to my mother's. I went to her closet and just like curled up into a ball and just broke down.
I must say, even though I had watched this clip before, watching it again was so powerful. It brought up a lot of feelings in me, and I can only imagine what it must have been like for you, Bob.
Well, I think you do imagine that pretty accurately, Victor, and I think that it's a useful thing that it does arouse emotion in us. Optimal therapeutic distance implies that we're close enough to the client to feel some version of their pain or distress, but far enough away from them to recognize that it is their pain and not our own. And so I do feel that, and I actually make a remark about that I myself am having a hard time breathing through the story. I find that my breath is very shallow in my body. And I note that to her, not simply as a gratuitous self-disclosure, but as a way of implicitly inviting her to attend to her body more deeply. As she does so, as she alternates between her own embodied emotion in this horrific scene, and that's the internal narrative once more, and the external narrative of what's happening, including the attempt to intervene to understand what has transpired on the part of many people in the Army and so on, and also the help that she's receiving on the part of her mother and father, really wrapping their hearts and minds around her in this vulnerable time. Then she begins to name and claim her relevant emotion. She talks about a sense of unknowing helplessness. And as she does so, she also hits upon the abiding gratitude she has for her parents in this moment, an element of meaning making, that third strand of the narrative, reminding her that even in this darkest hour, she is still loved.